Great. Thank you. So, hi everyone. Welcome to our contributors meeting today. I will be hosting this meeting. And so first of all, this week, me and Dan were on triage. I have a couple of things to discuss. But before that, are there any volunteers for triage for next time?
Let me do secondary. Haven't done it in a while.
I can go for
Thanks,
primary.
Andrew. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, Nitish. Give me a second. Oh, okay. You're on consequent lines. Great. Okay. Thank you. So first of all, thanks to everyone who have reviewed PRs. The stats here are not representing this time. They're broken, but thanks everyone who reviewed pull requests, and the merger stats, I think, are in place. A couple of things that I had from the triage is, first of all, this issue. So I was able to reproduce it. What happens is that when we use the create and update policy for application set, and then we have a generator that we want to go and basically to remove some apps from here. So those apps will not get deleted because it's okay that they don't get deleted because we're at the create and update policy. But on the other hand, the owner reference is still set on those apps, and the owner reference is to the wrong application set. And so if we take now the filters that would be relevant for this app and put it in another application set, then the second application set will not be able to manage this application. It will complain, and this application would have a stale owner reference. And so my question would be whether whether in terms of the implementation, would it mean that just the owner reference basically will need to be removed in this scenario?
I guess so, but I don't know if there are any more caveats. But yeah, I would like naturally assume that yeah, we should just like if you update the thing, yeah, we should just clean up owner reference from the applications using application set controller. At least I don't see any like caveats. Like if you don't want to delete the application, by the way, yeah, what prevents us from actually deleting it? Is it
So
like
what happened?
specific policies that we set?
Yes. So there are a couple
Yeah,
of policies, and the
yeah.
create update means that the application set can create applications and it can update existing ones, but it
Uh-huh.
cannot delete applications that even it itself created.
I see. Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, I guess when we just do update, we just need to update application. Seems like there are probably several more lines of code that needs to be added in the right place. But but again, I'm not very familiar with application set code, so it would be great if somebody who is like more familiar would also like chime in.
Probably rather than like building a state transition that's aware of parameters that have been dropped, you should probably just do generic orphan detection. So at the beginning of the reconcile loop, or I guess once you've generated parameters, find all the application sets that are owned by the apps that are owned by the app set. And if it wasn't an app that was generated, just go ahead and pop off the owner ref. That way you don't have to maintain a list of, well, here were the previous parameters, now here are the new parameters, what's the difference, go delete the owner ref. Just simplifies the logic.
Sorry, Michael, could you repeat? I didn't hear you so well.
Yeah, sorry if my noise canceling is bad. I'm in a loud place. So basically, do a step to detect orphans based on the owner refs, and then delete all of the orphaned applications. Don't maintain a list of previous and current applications because that's just more effort, more complicated.
Okay.
Should it be a change that's linked to the life cycle of the application set that the original parent application set, like a one-time operation if it is a create update uh, configuration. When that application set gets deleted, of course, we don't have a finalizer on there, but at that time, you're aware all owner references to that application set should are effectively nullified. So would you not want to just remove them at that time as part of the application set deletion?
I think that logic already exists. If it doesn't, that's a big bug.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because we're not necessarily talking about deleting it and then trying to assume management of an existing application, but instead to migrate management while potentially allowing the application set to still exist. I understand. Right. Okay. So orphaning. Okay. I guess any time the reconciliation results in an effective removal, you're saying that that's where the orphan detection would be invoked,
I
like
think it should
just
be in I think it
Mhm.
should be invoked on every reconciliation. I think it'd be preferable that the reconciliation loop isn't aware of the concept of like removal of applications. Instead, it just generates a list, and then if there's something it owns that isn't in that list, it removes the owner rep.
Sounds good.
Okay. Any more comments on this? Okay, great. So thanks for this, guys. Another interesting conversation that was on Slack is I will just describe it instead of opening the whole conversation. So we have an interesting use case. A user has a bunch of applications deployed to Kubernetes, not deployed with Argo CD. And now they want to migrate them to Argo CD. And the way that they want to do it is first, they want to be able to diff and to understand what would be the impact or what would be the changes that would be introduced before actually syncing the application with the same resources that already exist in the cluster. And so the user has created the application. The application has auto sync disabled. And basically, the user is looking at the diff view, at the UI. And like at the best case scenario, there is no diff. They will just go and sync. At a slightly worse scenario, there's going to be some diff that would need to be addressed. And so one of the diffs that is actually displayed is the Argo CD tracking ID. And the question is whether there is some way around that to not be seeing this diff, because the user wants to have someone who's not very technical going through those applications and kind of making the decision whether it's okay to sync those applications.
Is ignore diff already tried in this case?
No, they didn't try it. They have asked whether this can actually be, whether the tracking ID can be actually specified in the diffing configuration, or would it have like some kind of implications?
So do they have app of apps managing all the applications? Because if they do, they can use ignore differences, I think.
Ignore differences on
So you
on
specify
the
ignore
tracking ID?
differences.
On the
Yeah,
tracking
you
ID?
just yes. At least maybe it's naive, but like it's a typical approach to ignore diff on certain fields. So do I understand correctly that they want a diffs on applications objects themselves, not the application's resources, or they want everything?
Sorry again, Andre. I was just being
So
amused by Michael's comment.
okay. So do they want diff for application the resources themselves.
The resources themselves.
Okay. Yes, and if it's managed by app of apps, yes, I think you can just specify in app of apps, you specify like ignore differences, and you specify that like annotation, something like tracking ID. You may need to like some special escape characters for because of like some of like things.
Ignore difference is not dedicated to apps of apps. It's a standard Argo CD configuration for
Yeah,
applications.
yeah, it's just like
So it's not a requirement in this case. So
it's not a
they can
requirement.
give
Yes.
ignore diff a try.
So like it's at least theoretically should not be a problem because this is like a internal basic thing that we use. So this is the question whether it could be a problem ignoring such a infrastructure thing.
And I think, to be honest, like application manifest is a pretty like technical thing. So I don't think non-technical person should be really like making decisions on that. Should probably consult a technical person to take a look. Because not only this person should be familiar with like Kubernetes and like YAML manifests, they should also understand like application concept, what is fields, etc. So if they see some difference, like how do they decide if it's like legit or not? For example, there's some like annotation difference, like in this case. But suppose it's some other annotation. How do they know if it's okay or not? Like I don't think non-technical person can make this call.
Well, I can support that approach.
Is it possible that they mean like someone who maybe doesn't have technical knowledge of Argo CD but still have Kubernetes knowledge?
But in this case, it probably shouldn't be a problem to just say that, hey, if you have a diff for this annotation, just ignore it.
I have also suggested them, instead of looking at the UI, to invoke a CLI and then to filter out the output, just to filter exactly this exactly this diff. And that's when the non-technical person came into play. But yeah, okay, I think I will I will continue this discussion a little bit more on Slack. Thank you for the inputs. So the last thing from me for triage, I promise, is I just want to give a heads up on this regression in sync behavior. I actually plan to work on it, but just so that you are aware. So what happens here is that we have a multi-source application, and nothing changes in Git, but what changes is the application manifest, either the values section or something else. And if the application is configured with self-heal false, then basically the change in the application manifest will not trigger a sync. And this actually works as expected with a single source application, and it's related to some functionality that was introduced in dealing with multi-source and self-heal. So I plan to work on this, just a heads up, because I've seen also a question in Slack about something that is related to that.
Reggie, Alex G has some refactors and bug fix PRs up kind of in the sync and compare space. If you write an E2E test for this, it might just be worth running his changes against that just to see if he happens to fix it somehow.
Sorry, Michael, again.
Here, I'll type in chat.
Okay, thanks.
Basically, you're saying that like talk with Alex G because he's working on similar functionality, so you probably don't want to like some conflicts of code and like merge conflicts, etc. Maybe he can also fix this thing too.
Yeah, Reggie,
Okay,
I think
thanks.
I've one of the PRs which Alex has, like he has broken down into smaller PRs. If you see the most recent ones, it's regarding those.
So the regression was actually introduced by this change.
Okay.
Yeah, I reverted that in most recent PRs,
Oh,
or
you did that. Oh,
or
okay.
it's currently open. Yeah.
Okay, so this issue is open again because
I'm
it was reverted or
I
it was
did
fixed otherwise.
I did it in the last few days. Let me check if it's merged or not. But basically, in the reflect deep equal here, it's comparing sync revisions instead of the uh last operation revisions.
Mm.
I'll try to find the PR.
Is that the one which
Okay.
I shared, Alex? Yeah, I've just shared.
Uh, don't know.
Oh, oh,
Okay.
you said. Oh, I'm opening it. Simplify self hill logic.
It's might be no, it's PR 23,628. I think yeah.
Okay, so this one should actually fix the over restrictive behavior.
Yeah, you can link it to the issue, but basically bring back the behavior of multi-source back to the usual already at the 10 sync method.
Okay. So, all right, I will do it. I will do it afterwards. Great. Okay. So thank you for the input. Okay. Dan, did you have anything from triage?
No, I didn't see any big issues. I did a couple of reviews and responded to a few things, but nothing that needs to be brought up.
Okay. Okay. So with that, we continue to the discussion part. Oliver, is Oliver here?
Yeah, thank you.
Hi. Hi.
Hello.
Oh, yeah. I think this is a feature that we have a bunch of users that would be interested in.
That's what I hope. So yeah, thanks a lot. I'm picking this up. There was two people tried this before me. It was left in various state of half done. I redone that, re-evaluated the tests. They are largely rewritten and passing. It's been sitting there in a review queue for a little bit, and I understand it's somewhat complex and critical code, though I would definitely welcome a pair of eyes confirming that this is the approach you would like to go, and that the production code looks reasonable. Would you guys want me to walk through things briefly, or we can just start
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, yeah,
Cool.
just like a brief context. I mean, I watched the video with the previous discussion, but probably not everyone has the context. So yeah, if you can, in a couple of words.
Right. So the problem at large is that when I would like to control my deployments through Git and through Git only, and I push commit that breaks sync of my application, and I have configured to refresh, sorry, to retry, it will keep on retrying with the commit, even if I push a fixing commit that is resolving the situation. The Argo CD would simply retry on a like previous commit, the broken one, pretty much forever. What is desirable is that at some point Argo CD give up on this and would retry with the latest commit, just in case there is a chance that is actually resolving the problem that prevents it from. So I picked up the high-level design from the way it was. It introduces a new feature, sorry, new attribute to the application level, and as this retry refresh that can be configured through CLI or in the application manifest that essentially say whenever the sync is being retried, check if there are latest commits, and if yes, then apply those. Which causes precisely what we want, right? When Argo CD is trying the sync, like recover from the fail sync by retry, it checks and uses the latest commit instead of the one it was retrying on before. So that's about that. And what we're sharing right now is the production code change that was needed. Pretty much the rest is pretty much boilerplate, introducing the field and in countless places, right? But this is
And the
this
test.
body of the change.
Oliver, I have a question. So does there are certain times that the retry will take place. After those retries finish, will it still not pick this new commit? Just trying to understand how does it work with the combination of the number of retries.
Right. There's certainly a use case when it's configured to try forever, right? So in these cases, I understood this would be needed. What in case it is supposed to end at some point? I haven't tested this particular case, so chances are it will pick up, right? But from a perspective of a customer or a Argo CD user that is trying to resolve a problem, I have a desire to wait as little as possible, right? So waiting for the, pretty much all the retry items to finish, which can be tens of minutes even, right? It doesn't sound desirable, so I would still opt into, consulting the latest commit sooner than later.
Okay, so we're basically saying that that in this case, whenever there is a commit in Git that fixes the situation, we're like gonna break the retry loop.
Not break. What it
Like
does is
stop
that it
it.
updates the revision we are syncing on. This is this 13, what is it? 98 line. No, not the one. Sorry, I'm not used to this split view.
In the
It's
application controller?
1403. Yes, that's the correct code, right? 1403 is actually updating the revision that we're using. And the retry pretty much continues with the new revision number.
And in this case, I'm wondering, and this was also a discussion that took place in that video that you have linked, what would happen with the sync hooks if there are any in such a case? Or what should happen, or what do we even expect to happen? Just thinking out loud in this case.
That's a good question, right? We can think of what would happen with the old revision syncing if we should consider it failed at all, and then retry with a new revision that would eventually succeed or maybe fail as well, or we simply skip from the previous revision as outdated and use the new one, and hooks will kick in normally with the new revision based on if it fails or succeeded.
I'm trying to review the documentation on retry right now while we're talking about this. I can't find it for some reason, but what's confusing to me, why are we using retry in the first place? What's the purpose of retry? I'm asking this rhetorically.
So retries, as far as I understand, they were introduced in order to deal with a situation when something intermittent happens in a cluster, like something in the runtime is maybe bad now, but it will change soon.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that this was primarily targeted to changes at the cluster, unless someone wants to correct me or add more use cases to this.
Any intermittent error.
Yeah. So
classic one is resource unavailable in the node, and then Argo CD will keep retrying.
Yeah, okay. So I agree 100% with this, that's the purpose of the retry. And if we have an endless retry, we probably shouldn't have endless. That's something you can configure. You can say a limit on how many times you want to retry it before you mark it as a failed sync. But even when you mark it as a failed sync, so without this change, let's say that the retry goes for an hour, it fails. When does Argo CD then try again to sync?
I guess when it refreshes next time, when there is changes, right?
So the next time there are changes in the repository?
I
Just
believe so. So yeah, that plus wait for up to 3 minutes and to trigger a refresh. And then if that
that's
refresh introduces
just
changes, it would.
to clarify, there's two things that can trigger sync. There's a manual sync operation from one of the client, can be the CLI or whatever,
Mhm.
or there's auto sync. Auto sync will kick in when revision change. And then the retry will just retry an existing operation that has
Oh.
been triggered by autosync or manual.
So
Does
in this,
does it mark it as failed? So so when the retry ends, does it mark it as failed? But when that auto sync loop happens, does it try to sync it again? Or
Yeah.
since it's marked as fail, does it?
So you have the operation ongoing, and then you have
Mhm.
the last operation. When there's a failure, you will update the last operation as failed, and then you will automatically re-put the operation in progress.
Okay, that's what I figured. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
so it seems like based on this sequence of events that one, we probably shouldn't use an infinite retry because that blocks you out of getting to the next revision. And there are situations where you want to have some sequence where you're deploying a version, you want that to be fully done before the next version is done. And so you have this would require the manual intervention to deal with. But if you go and you update the revision on the existing sync operation, it sounds like you would lose history about the failure. And it also is a condition that exists only because you set up an infinite set of retries when in normal operation, you probably don't even need that many retries. Intermittent failures like that, they can happen, but usually they're not like they're not things that self-resolve within days. And it seems like it would be better behavior to say, oh, we had some issue, it caused some disruption. There were a few things that were failed that didn't get synced. I'll go and hit sync now that things are working again, or I'll just wait for the next revision to kick in and let it catch up. So I think what I'm saying is it sounds a little bit like a problem that is caused by using the configuration of setting the retries to be infinite when maybe that shouldn't be used at all. But
There is
what
another.
am I missing part of the use case here? Is there a good reason to be using that infinite retry that I'm not capturing?
I think it has to do with Kubernetes promise that things will be
Eventually
um,
consistent.
exactly, yeah, eventually consistent. So it may take days for the node to be to have resources back again. So if Argo CD stop retrying, then someone needs to go there and invoke the operation to retry, right? So it's not eventually consistent.
When
So
Argo CD has a failed sync, it applied the manifests, right? And then is it only because they got rejected, the manifests? There
It
was
may
some.
partially applies the manifest and then. No, but there is one more thing, by the way, is like was mentioned that suppose like retries are not infinite, suppose like 2 retries, but each try takes like half an hour. Then like maybe instead of waiting 1.5 hours total, you wait only half an hour and then sync with the new version. So it's like gonna bring you to a better state faster. I think that's that seems legit.
Yeah, well, the alternative would be to have a setting to, uh, I guess, mark as failed when new revision is available, so
Yeah.
that you're not modifying that sync operation. You're just failing it and ending its retry, so it moves to the next one.
Mhm.
I'd like to add one more thing to consideration, right? That what we're describing is actually forcing customers to choose, right? I mean, there's a desire to have a longer retries just in case we can tolerate a longer cluster function, right? That the resources are not available for a few hours, etc. So there's a motivation for them to have this longer, but at the same time, they would like to have the new revisions deployed sooner, right? And I'd say few people would like to wait up to an hour or maybe even more to their commits to be deployed, right? Just because the previous one was botched. Though what I've heard is certainly valid that updating it might actually erase the fact there was a problem from the sync history, which we probably don't want to.
Yeah, but I think to summarize what was said, looks like seems like the better implementation would be to just basically fail existing operation if there is a new version. So when we consider to do a retry or not to do a retry, we check, hey, is there a new version? If the new version is there, we just don't retry, and then refresh would trigger another sync, right? If there is auto sync enabled.
Well, there's another failure condition there too, which is that you have a new revision available, but it's not related to your manifests. So you do have to take into account maybe like manifest generation paths or something. Otherwise, you'll trigger a new sync operation when the manifests actually haven't changed. But if you use manifest generate paths to filter it, that would work. Yeah, you would just mark it as, you would have a setting to mark as failed when new revision becomes available, or to interrupt the retry loop when new revision comes available. But yeah, I don't think you should modify the existing sync.
I would have sworn that I tried something like this and I was absolutely struggling to get things working this way. Would there be anybody who has some capacity to show me what exactly will be changed? Maybe there is a similar code. Can be off meeting, but I would definitely appreciate more guidance on how to actually do this.
Okay, so maybe we can continue some more on the asynchronous discussion on the issue, perhaps, to outline a couple of different ways to approach it. Is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah, definitely will be fine with me.
Okay, and if someone has an input for the question that Oliver has asked to explore the other direction, then it would be great if you can comment on the issue. Okay.
Yes, that'll be perfect. Any guidance or suggestions will be appreciated. Thank you, folks.
Okay, great. So thank you, Oliver.
No, it's up above.
Where am I? Oh, yeah. Okay, Andre.
No,
sorry, Pat. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Etsy. So another ticket which is related to retries. So here's the thing. I managed to reproduce what is described here. Actually, this setting is taken into consideration because if you scroll down and see the emails attached, it says that operation is terminated. However, if that action has retries, the controller keeps retrying to perform the same sync. That's why the message says that retry attempt 9. Now, if there is a retry timeout or retry definite number of retries, at some point, this button will go away. It will say that it was completed with end time. If there is an endless retry, probably it will never stop retrying. Now, this leads to some, let's say, misleading interface. And I'm not sure about what is the right approach here. I have two proposals, and that's why I want to discuss it. A, if we have this setting, the sync timeout, it doesn't matter if we have retries, we just stop and we cancel our remaining retries. If we want the retries to take over this setting, then we need to somehow change this message as we see, so that the user understands that the operation is not yet terminated, but it keep trying by doing retries. That is pretty much. So I'm not sure what is the right approach here. do we still want to retry if this sync timeout is successful this hit?
I think
Or
in most
we
cases
cancel the retries?
we probably don't.
So
In most practical cases, but I don't honestly, I'm like struggling to like see what the best solution would be. We can try to do like two options, one for like total, one for like one operation, but then it's too confusing to the user. What should they like set or something? So I don't know yet.
Yeah, my let's say that the more fundamental question is, do we want that retries to ignore any other setting related to controller sync? Because this is what we're doing right now. This timeout is there, but the retries just ignore it. So let's say the question is, do we want the retries to keep retrying?
Just supersede, yeah.
Yeah, or if it's like, well, there's a sync timeout, I will not do any retries because I have this setting. By default, the setting is like no timeout, so we keep retrying. Maybe that's a question we want to answer. How we want to handle retries when we have this sync timeout set by the user.
I mean, the timeout could be caused again by a transient issue. Maybe it's a connection to a system that it's not available, so it takes 30 seconds before getting the failure code. So it seems like a sync timeout should be per sync. And if you want to have a global total timeout of the full sync attempt, you just have to configure the retry setting correctly with the backoff and the number of retries.
Yeah, right now those two are battling to each other. I mean, you can configure the retries with the backoff and a timeout which is larger than the controller sync timeout. And that is actually leading to the case that we are seeing here. I mean, we are letting the user to decide which of those, I don't know, need to be taken into consideration, but the UI is kind of, doesn't give the right information that, hey, you have retries. So although we have the sync timeout, we are going to keep retrying because you have retries until X number of retries.
See, yeah, actually that's a good point that like would fixing a UI UX experience be good enough? Maybe we like rename it to like single sync timeout or something like that, and in UI instead of operation terminated, we show like maybe operation timed out or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what my second suggestion is to keep retrying, but also make some UI changes to make it clear to the user that well, we are going to keep retrying. It's not terminated yet. Yeah, that would be simpler.
Currently in the UI, I don't remember. Do we or don't we have like a reflection of the fact that we are retrying?
We do. If you see the image, Reggie, there is a message operation terminated. That message comes from the controller sync timeout. However, because we have retries, we say we're going to retry. So it's misleading. The operation is terminated, but we're going to retry.
Yes, we have the retries.
Yeah.
So maybe
it just seems like a poor choice of like word terminated here, which is because like terminated also means terminate like full sync with all retries. So,
right.
Yeah. I agree. Please assign this to me. I was the one who like introduced this like feature for sync timeout, so let me like just follow up on this.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I was already on it, but yeah, I mean we can sync on that.
Yeah, or if you want to like take on it and just do some changes, that's also like welcome. Yeah, so to you.
Okay.
But I'm willing to like fix it, and I think it can make it to the next release.
But
okay, cool.
Just to clarify the question in what you posted, the sync timeout is for one singular sync.
Yeah.
And I think it should stay like this. But yeah, if we want to change the UI so it's more clear that why it took 45 minutes and because it's retrying, that makes sense.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Thanks, Pat.
Yep.
Andre,
Yeah.
you're next.
Okay, I have 3 minutes. So let
Yeah,
me
we
give you
have 3 minutes.
Yeah. So let me give the context pretty quickly. So we're trying to at my company we're trying to use basically Argo CD CLI with some like custom wrapper. Our Argo CD is behind Cloudflare URL. So typically, if you wanna like do a run Argo CD command, you first authenticate with Cloudflare and acquire a token and pass it as a header. And then there's been some desire to run this on basically headless system without UI, without a browser. And Cloudflare, I managed to get it working because you can like it just spits out URL and you can open it in your like local system browser. For example, suppose you connect it to some like DevBox remote instance via like SSH or something like that. Then like you run the command there, it's like Cloudflare poses, it gives you URL, you click on it, it opens it in actually your system browser, it authenticates you, and now when you run like command get token, it can give you a token. It's all good. But when I run into struggle, when I actually try to do SSO login with like Argo CD, I spoke with our securities. They are not keen on just using same username and password, even if it's stored in secrets, because then we just don't know which user is taking operations, and it's like I can understand them. So, but the problem with Argo CD SSO, it doesn't work like Cloudflare. It has a callback URL which points at localhost 8085. And it means like even if I open the thing like in my local browser, it cannot like call this callback. It cannot reach out to like the box because well, localhost 8085 doesn't make sense in the context of like a local system. So I wonder, can we like maybe like rewrite this in some way? I heard there's some like PR for like device OS or something, and maybe like when we run a command for Argo CD with like DAX, we authenticate certain token, and then like maybe like on CLI, we just then query Argo CD again to get the token and not have this like localhost 8085 callback. Yeah, there's been a thread for this. I think like so far there's been some advice, but it seems like we still need to run something on a local system. Maybe get a token on a local system and paste it into like remote system, but then it's kind of means that we need another tool on the local system, which is already getting a bit complicated. So if you can like limit it to just like, hey, open URL in the browser, that would be like the best.
Yeah, I just a real summary. I don't know who else has an opinion on this. I think passing the auth token to the login command, that flag, a good RFE would be to update that to the point where it adds it to the Argo CD config file, right? So that way, because the auth token, it's only usable like per command, right? So like you have to actually pass the #auth token for each command you're doing.
Yeah.
I think if you're doing like login, pass the token, and then the token gets added to the config file. So that way, from then on out, that gets updated. I don't, I mean, other than that, I don't know like a cleaner way to do SSO.
But it seems like we need to generate this token. So it looks like, we need some way to generate it and pass it to the like remote system. And I wonder if we can do some kind of like server side logic so that you like it's not the responsibility of the client to like generate and pass the token, but it's more like client on one system tells, hey, I want this like thing to be authorized, open it in the browser, server authorizes it, and then like client on the other system can call it server, and like this client is kind of pre-authorized already. Yeah, something like that.
That's the configuration we have at Intuit, and it works in our SSO.
How do you do it?
Yeah, we can check details in how we can configure. I can provide the information, I mean internal information here, but I know that this configuration is possible. What I'm saying is, add into it, we have SSO configured, and it redirects, and it has integration with the browser, and we don't have to add this token anywhere.
I see. Yeah.
No, I think he's talking about a headless, right? So he's talking about he's on a system that doesn't have a browser. is what he's
Yeah.
saying.
So basically, when you just run it on the
Okay.
local macOS and if want to access Argo CD UI, yes, SSO is like configured, it's working perfectly. You just like open the URL, gets through Cloudflare, gets through like SSO, and you're in Argo CD UI. It's all like works nicely. But if I want to run CLI on a headless system, that's where it like basically I cannot
see,
easily do
okay.
SSO. Yeah,
I
yeah,
missed that
that's a
part.
part of the problem.
Okay.
Well, sorry, like looks like we are out
Okay.
of time. So if
Yeah, we're a
anybody has
little
any
out of time.
ideas, please like go to like Argo CD contributors thread and like comment. I've heard there's been some PR which does like device authentication. It seems maybe it's doing something similar, but I haven't like deeply looked into this. So, but yeah, maybe like we can rewrite our flow for like to support headless SSO somehow. Yeah, but
Okay.
unfortunately don't know if it's easy to do.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. I think probably we'll have to continue this either asynchronously or if you want, we can continue the discussion on the next meeting. I apologize to Nitish and Eugene. We didn't have time to go through the thing. Eugene, if you're here on the call, maybe we can start a thread about this because I see that Michael wants some more information. And next topics will be the first on the next contributors meeting. I will make sure of that. So thanks a lot, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.